Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, a free and educated Black woman, spent her life fighting for the freedom and equality of others. As an orphan at age 3, she learned how to survive at a young age. She spent her life as a prohibitionist, an abolitionist, and a feminist working with those who were struggling to gain freedom and equality. Harper helped those escape through the Underground Railroad. She put the needs of others above her own, and she made sure to educate as many individuals as she could about abolitionism and equal rights through her work on poetry.
Harper was born on September 25th of 1825 in Baltimore, Maryland. She was able to attend school because her parents were free. She was raised by her aunt and her uncle and was able to obtain an education at a school for African Americans that was run by her family. She taught domestic skills in Ohio after she finished school. Here, she met abolitionists and became involved in the freedom of blacks after the Fugitive Slave Law had passed. Harper published her first poems in 1854 and became the first Black female to publish a short story in 1859.
Sketches of Southern Life was written in the Reconstruction era after the Civil War. It included Aunt Chloe's poems, which were written in the voice of Aunt Chloe, who was a former slave. She used her poems to attack racism and the oppression of women by writing in the first person so that readers could get a deeper understanding of what women and slaves had gone through, and to increase individual knowledge in order to get more people to fight against the corruption. The main themes represented in the poems are hope and a sense of community for those who were suffering the inequalities of the 19th century. She used religion, and more specifically Christianity, to tell people to believe and hold on to hope as they fight for their way through a better life.
So in my high school, my 12th grade English class, we had a little timeline on the board, and it had pictures of every author from like the most important authors that we talked about. And my English teacher asked us all, like, oh, if anybody can figure out what the thing wrong with this timeline is, let me know. And one of the students raised their hand and said, well, they're all white males. So I do agree with that. I think that's very true, and I noticed that when taking my previous English classes as well.
Okay, to be honest, in high school I didn't actually do most of the reading that I was supposed to do, but the reading I did do was mostly by dead white guys.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely had read a lot of the so-called dead white male stuff, but I had some teachers that were more progressive, so I think I read actually quite a bit of African American and women literature, like The Awakening and Beloved and stuff. So yeah.
So in most of my English classes, I would say that probably about 75% were written by white Caucasian males, probably just because their books were more popular, because publishers and other people respected white people more than other races because of obviously racism during that time. So
So I guess in the United States, still the majority of people are white, so a lot of influences on literature are still Western culture authors.
I never really thought about it, but I think it's really odd that literature classes are just with books by white males, and I wonder why they don't just incorporate everything under literature. It made me realize how much the United States is run by white older males.
Right. So in a lot of our English classes, they always talk about like the canon of literature, and I think like the canon of literature, like where we're at now, is just a bunch of like dead white guys. So if you want to like learn about like or like read works by other people that are not a bunch of dead white guys, then you have to take different classes.
I think there's the different subsections because society has not gotten to a point where it's considered the norm to have, female literature written by females or African Americans is considered like a staple. So I think they have to subsidize it or else a lot of those works won't necessarily get out there, or those authors, which I think is depressing. I think it's bad, but I think that's definitely the way society stands now.
Because I'm a white male living in the Northwest, it's something I really haven't like experienced or ever really seen, so I can't really answer that.
I think modern racism has been brought up throughout the ages, and it's not something that just started today. I think a lot of it's affected through social media and jokes and just like how people see beauty, like through magazines or other things in the United States. You don't see a lot of diversity. I think that under the surface, racism is brought on by how literature is only seen through white males, but it's not predominantly a
I'd
cause.
say the causes of modern racism would probably be the inequality between the races that still exist in our country, such as the fact that, you know, many minority groups, such as, you know, African Americans, still don't have like the same amount, still get paid on average less, and there's some higher unemployment, and there's still a lot of very segregated places in this country, such as, you know, you can see at Ferguson the segregation of the white police force and the black students, in Chicago where there's similar issues, and I think there's still like the massive, you know, inequality between these groups. I guess the main form of modern racism is that there's just not equality between all the people in this country, but especially between certain, you know, income inequality, especially found mostly between certain, you know, races.